Hi there, this is Jennifer with Crafting in Carrollville. We're going to get right into our project. What I have here is a 2-foot by 3-foot canvas and I'm just painting it out white. That's the very beginning of my project, so simple. I did of course clean it, dust it, make sure that it was free of any debris. I picked this up at the bins of course. They sell things by the pound at my local bin store, so it was probably just a couple dollars. What I'm doing here is I'm going to decoupage this picture onto the canvas, and you'll see that I'm going to end up with a floating picture in the middle of my canvas, and I'm going to make it all make sense as we go. But I did one of these for myself because I had a need for a panoramic picture in my living room above my double windows. We're finally at the point in our house where we can really start putting things back together. And so I was changing out some things. I had a big word sign above my double windows, and so I finally just got rid of that. And we are going to be upcycling that. I'll show you later on in the next couple videos what I do with that. Anyway, so my next step in the process here is to decoupage this tissue paper that I got from Zazzle onto my big canvas. However, like I mentioned, my canvas is 3 feet by 2 feet. This picture is 17 inches by 23 inches. So it's basically just going to be a picture floating around in this big canvas. But through this video, I'm going to show you how I anchor it to the canvas and how I paint out the background so that you couldn't tell that this was not just one cohesive piece of decoupage paper. Anyway, I love the way mine turned out for my living room, so I decided I needed to make one of these to sell. So this is the second one that I've made, and this is the one I'm going to sell. I did order my my decoupage paper from Zazzle. We talk about that quite a few times before. When I order decoupage paper, that's generally where it's from. I'm using Mod Podge as my decoupage medium. And again, like I say all the time, I'm using a light, thin coat. I also, you can't see it, but I have a board under my canvas so that I have a hard surface to press down on as I press that paper onto the canvas. And you can see I'm using a balled up piece of cling wrap to do that. That just, it's a way of not creating the same kind of heat that your fingers would create, and so I'm not tearing my paper. Also, your fingers tend to get sticky, and so you don't want to have anything sticky rubbing your decoupage paper down with. So I'm just sticking this down one side at a time, making sure that I've anchored it in the middle because I want those edges to be uniform, because we're going to address those as we go. A good tip is if you're using the cling wrap and you still have some wrinkles or bubbles, let it dry completely and then come back in with your heat gun and reactivate that Mod Podge and press it down wearing a glove or your finger protector or something like that. I know we were going to do a thrift haul in this video, and the reason we are not is that our contractors that are coming to finish the floors in our porch are coming earlier than we thought they would, so we had to empty our porch into my workshop. If you've ever had new flooring, you know that it's sort of, an inconvenience and something great to look forward to all at once. So we had to move all the contents of our lanai, we call it, into my workshop. So there's really, it's not that I can't film out there, it's that I don't want to because it's a mess. But on Tuesday, it's going to look super pretty because I'm going to be able to put my porch back together for the first time since September 2022 when Ian blew through our town. Anyway, so I have one side of that decoupage paper down, and I'm just working out all those wrinkles that may or may not be there. Generally, with enough practice, those are just not going to be bothersome to you anymore. With enough practice, everybody learns to decoupage without getting bubbles and wrinkles. And, there's a lot of life hacks you can use to minimize them along the way. So here I am. I am just, again, using a light, thin coat of my decoupage medium, which is Mod Podge. I'm super excited about my thrift haul. I so want to show you all some of the things that I found at the bins recently. Just, like I said, I don't thrift for resale. I have zero interest in doing that. But I do love to find some great things to upcycle. And also, I love to find things for my house, like just as a practical matter. And I found some really great things for my house that I'm super excited about that I want to show you. And also, I'm super excited about my next upcycle, which is going to be a suitcase table that I'm making for my newly renovated front porch. I can't wait to show you what that will look like. And also, my next few videos will probably be things that I am upcycling for my home. Most of the things I make are for resale at our shows. But, obviously I have a lot of home decor that I made myself. And so I'm going to be focusing on some of those just because they need to be done. And it'll be great to be able to show you how I've done them and then how I use them as I've done them. Anyway, the suitcase table is going to be really pretty. I'm really excited about that. I chose this picture because it lent itself well to a panorama, and so there you see it's all down on my canvas now, and you can see it's just sort of a floating piece of paper in my canvas. Now, that's not artistic and that's not pretty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint out those edges to match what's already there. You don't have to be an artist to try this technique because, listen, even if you were painting those horses, that wouldn't be super difficult because they're not really fleshed out. They're not full of detail. They're basically just the idea of horses. They're very ambiguous, let's say that. So to finish out the edges of this canvas, I'm just choosing colors that match the colors that are already there. They're going to be as exact as I can make them with what I have on hand. And I didn't buy any special paint for this. I just went over to my paint table. I chose different kinds of paint and different colors of paint. Basically, whatever colors I had, it didn't matter what kind they were. So the little bottles there are Fusion mineral paint, and then I come in with some chalk paint and then also some acrylic paint. And it didn't matter to me what kind of paint it was, as long as it was the right color or I could blend it into the right color. So I am just taking my brush and I'm using sort of a medium bristled brush. I'm not using a really soft brush. I'm not using a chip brush. I'm using, and I'm not using a really broad brush because what I'm trying to do is duplicate or replicate the background that is already there. I'm just extending it. So I'm taking my brush, I'm just pouncing the paint on. It's pretty thick at this point. I'm just trying to get the color down so that I can see what I need to add. And the one thing I'm not doing, I'm not overthinking this. I'm not questioning, what color I've just put on. I realize that that's too blue, it's too dark, it's too this, it's too that. But I'm just going to let it rest and I'll come back to that as I go. As I fill in the edges, I'll be able to see what it is I need to change. This is what my mother used to call, who was a very prolific artist, she used to call this living with a piece, and that's always great advice. So I'm going to keep painting this, But as I go, I'm going to step back and really analyze it, take a look, see what I think. Um, but I'm not overthinking it. I'm just looking at it to see what I think needs to be changed. And I keep doing that. I laugh because I know if my sisters are watching this, they know what Mom meant by live with an art piece, because she literally hung it on the wall and lived with it for, I mean, it could be months, it could be years, we don't know. There doesn't seem to be a timetable. It's just whenever she felt like she could add to it, she would. But I don't let mine hang around that long because I don't have the patience for that. And I do create artwork, but and this is not what I call creating artwork. This is just a way that you can make yourself a big piece of art without a lot of effort. Somebody else did the art. I'm just making it fill up the space that I want it to fill. So I've come in now with some colors that will match down below. There's some browns, there's some purples, there's some pinks in there. And so that's what I'm focusing on, is just the colors that I see that I can pull down into the edge. And also I am including some of that paint in the actual picture. So I'm incorporating the paint that I'm mixing into the picture so that it all blends well and is cohesive and looks like it was all painted at once. It's a process. It's like anything you do. It is an absolute process. And you can see here, I'm coming in with a baby wipe in case I don't want any of those hard edges left that were there. So I don't want that picture to look like it's floating in the canvas. I want to make it all look very blended and cohesive. So I do come in with a wet wipe as I'm painting, just to blend out the edges and feather things so that it looks like it's, all been painted at the same time. And again, I don't know where I've gone to. I could be anywhere. I'm probably getting more paint because, and I want you to notice my little paint palettes. I love when I find little plates or fancy china at the bins. I pick them up, I use them for palettes. I just wash them when I'm finished and reuse them. But my mother did that, and I just think it's such a whimsical little thing that anything I can do that was like my mom, I want to do it. But I just love the idea of using fancy china plates to paint. Those aren't necessarily. Those are just little plates I found that I thought were cute, and when I don't need to mix up a whole bunch of paint, they work. So, and you can see I have two palettes going. One is for the top colors where things are a little lighter, and then one is for those bottom colors that are a little warmer, like the browns and the dark tones of purple. And I'm using a stiffer brush. It's not a soft brush, but it's not a crusty, hard brush either. I'm using a stiffer brush because as I'm dabbing that paint onto the canvas, I don't necessarily want to blend it. I'm trying to keep the colors sort of separate and not muddy, so they're not mixing with each other in a way that would make a color that I don't want. So that's kind of my process there. And again, I've got that baby wipe in one hand and my paintbrush in the other, and I'm just blending the edge as I go so that it all looks like I just sat down and painted these horses. I'm actually so anxious to get another art piece started, and it's coming. I promise it's coming. Our porch was the very last room that we have to complete post Hurricane Ian. And then I'm never going to talk to you about hurricanes again. I promise. It's going to be a thing of the past. Except like now it's June. So here we are in hurricane season again. But when they say Ian was a 100-year storm, they really, really mean it, because I've lived here for 40 plus years, and that was by far the worst storm we'd ever experienced in our area. Anyway, while I was talking there, I showed you an up-close picture of my palettes and what that paint looks all mixed together. I try to not mix it completely. I want it to be sort of, if you notice, it looks sort of the same on the palette that it does on the canvas. And that's the idea. You want to keep your paint separated so that you can dip into each one of them separately and then combine them on the canvas. I hope that makes sense. When you mix your paints that way, it also allows you to incorporate acrylic mineral chalk paint, very easily, which all of those paints are fair game. You could paint all of those paints onto a canvas, even separately. But so just so you know, different types of paints do mix well together. In this instance, they're all water-based paints, so you can sort of have at it. Mixed media is one of my very favorite things. Any type of mixed media, whether you're using clay or transfers or whatever. If you're mixing medias, that's always, a super fun thing to try. I love the way that this horse picture, the cloud that's sort of behind it, it's obviously, horses running in a herd this way would have a cloud of dirt and dust behind them as they run. They would be throwing up, rooster tails and like our dogs do when they run at full speed. But it also has this sort of vague look like they're running out from a fog. And so that's really was my inspiration for finishing the edges out this way. I didn't want to have to worry about getting any detail or putting anything in there that wasn't already there. It's just extending the idea. And the idea to me is that they're sort of running out of a fog into the light. So that's what I'm trying to convey here while finishing out the edges. I really love this, and we're going to talk more and more about art, how to create art, fail-safe ways to create art without being an artist. And I think that we all have some of that in us. One of the things that I want to do soon is glass painting, where I show you how to paint on glass in a fail-safe way that will produce an actual piece of art. I can't wait to show you all that. I've taught that class several times in different settings, at the library and then at school, and I feel like it is such a great exercise to do with people who are convinced that they are not artistic. So even if you're not artsy, keep following, keep coming back, because I feel like I'm going to teach you some things that might be useful. If you like what you see, if you like to learn new techniques and learn how to do things from scratch, definitely hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share, do all the things. We are so very close to monetization here on YouTube. I never thought it would happen quite as fast as it has. Would have happened a lot faster if I had been able to be more consistent early on, but oh my goodness, we waited and waited and waited and waited for our insurance money to be able to make so many repairs for our house, the big repairs. you make small repairs along the way, but then you've got the big things like the roof and, fences and just so many big things and little things. And so, we had no control over when that would actually be able to happen. So we just kind of had to live life and wait expectedly and then drop things and be ready to move on those projects. So that's what we did. And listen, I am not complaining. I am so thankful. Our house, excuse me, is going to be absolutely perfect. I'm super excited about the end result. All right, you can see I've just got that little strip left on top there. And I really love the way that there are warm tones in this picture, and there are actually also cool tones. And I really like that. I think it's a good combination of all those things because it allows so much freedom in how I'm finishing out this background. And I hope y'all are inspired to know that you can make, develop, and create your own artwork for your own home without running up to Hobby Lobby. I think I have 2 pictures in my house from Hobby Lobby, and I bought them basically for inspiration. I love them, but I also bought them for inspiration because, I have a couple goals in life, and one of them would actually be to have artwork at Hobby Lobby. Another one is to fill my home with things that I love, that I created, that my husband and I experienced together. But those particular pictures that I bought actually inspire me to think on those things, to remember that those are things that I have, on the back burner. But if I meet a lot of small goals along the way, I might actually get there. And sometimes it's good just to say those things out loud and hear yourself say them to see if they sound ridiculous at all. And they do. I mean, they sound ridiculous to me, but you never know. Anyway, so my point in saying that was that when you want a big piece of artwork, it's always a great idea just to see what you can come up with on your own. There's no reason that you have to just go buy something that's readily available to anybody that shops, in that store. This is a total, compilation of, 3 ideas. The original artist's idea, a canvas, and my idea to finish out the background this way. Again, I'm just using that wet wipe to dab at those edges to blend them with what's already there. I swallowed something wrong like 2 days ago, and I've been coughing ever since. Like, constantly. Anyway, I really love this project. I think that it turned out exactly like I had envisioned. And that's another thing that I hope y'all are able to do and excited about, is just being sort of a visionary, envisioning finished projects and then doing them. My mom used to say, nothing gets done if you don't do it. And that was good advice, especially for me, her middle child, that, was pretty convinced if God wanted it done, he would just grab a pen and do it. I laugh, but really, I've always had this persona where I think about things a lot, but I'm not necessarily doing the things. But as a 52-year-old, I've gotten much better at, self-motivating and making myself complete projects. Something we learn in maturity, I think. Anyway, you can see I'm going to come in here with some lighter paint and blend all those harsh edges. So at the end of this project, it's going to look exactly like I had envisioned. I also come back, I'm going to put a frame on this, and I don't show myself doing that because y'all have seen me make frames. Basically, I used a 1x2 furring strip. Furring strips make great frames. They're $1.27 for 8 feet of furring strip at Home Depot. So I bought 2 of them, and I came home and just cut them into 3 feet sections and 2 feet sections with mitered edges, and then just used my brad nail gun to attach them to the sides of my canvas. Super easy to do. I stained them with antiquing wax. You'll see the frame at the end here, but I'm saying that to tell you that, you know, you can always add that finishing touch to any canvas that you buy at the store, picture that you like. You can always add a frame, and that just really brings it up a notch. So here I am. I think this is, you can see how pretty my palette looks there and how it's filled with the same colors that you see in that picture. Now I'm just coming in and I'm adding some of those splotches that were already there. I'm adding some more. And those are very popular in painting right now. I'm seeing a lot of digital artwork has those watercolor splashes. And I don't know, I don't know if this was a digital piece. I know it was not an AI piece. But I don't know whether it was a digital piece. I don't know how to create digital artwork. I just don't know. So my artwork is always, you know, I do it by hand. There's my finished project. I love how this turned out. Don't forget to watch our next video. I will have a suitcase table makeover for you that's going to be super great. I will also have a thrift haul as soon as I am able to film in my studio again without it looking like a travesty. So Tuesday.